Hello, church. Thank you for joining us in this month of prayer so far. And in today's reflection, we're thinking about what is the one thing that we need to prioritize. If there was just one thing that we need to introduce into our day-to-day that's going to transform our whole lives, what is that thing? And growing up, we were told probably the most obvious thing is 5 fruit and veg. That's what you need in your day-to-day to have a strong and healthy life. I've since found out apparently it's now 20 different plants. Apparently that's what you should be doing. Who knew? My mind went to Michael Mosley. If any of you remember, he wrote a book called Just One Thing, which was all about introducing these individual things into our daily lives that were going to have huge health benefits. So it'd be things like reading a poem a day, doing cold showers, having cold showers. If any of you do that, you're very brave. There's some wacky things like, I think there was one which said, as you brush your teeth, stand on one leg. Apparently, it's going to help you. Anyways, you get the idea. For us as followers of Jesus, what is that one thing to be? What is the most important thing? If there's just one thing, what is that to be? I'd love us in our Bibles if we turn to Luke chapter 10. And it's the passage of Mary and Martha. And so I'm going to read it to us now, as it really helps us in answering what that one thing is. So Luke chapter 10, verse 38 to 42. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed them into her home. Her sister, Mary, sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, "Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me." But the Lord said to her, "My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her." Guys, I hate to break it to you, but we are so like Martha. I thought it was really interesting, just the wording here. But Martha was distracted. That is so like me. That is so like you. Our diaries are full of all the different plans that we have. We've got our personal life over there. We've got our work life. We've got our church life. We've got all these different things that we try and balance. In my diary, I've got this long list of jobs to do each day. And if I don't manage them, I move them over to the next day. By the end of the week, there's this long pile of things that I haven't done. And so I just delete it all. I forget about it all. I push it to one side. My point is we're distracted by all these different things. And in that, what is the one thing that we neglect? It's that time with Jesus. It's that time sat at his feet, listening to his words. If there's just one thing that we need to introduce, what is that one thing to be? Jesus teaches us, gives us very direct teaching on prayer and time in his presence. Jesus says, when you go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And a friend of mine has just joined Slimming World, and in joining Slimming World, they give you this booklet. And he says, the front page of this booklet says this: if you follow the plan a little bit, you'll get a little bit of the results. If you follow the plan properly, you'll get the full results. I love that. It almost sounds biblical, doesn't it? It sounds like a proverb or some bit of wisdom literature there. It says, if you follow the plan a little bit, you'll get a little bit of the results. If you follow it properly, you'll get the full results. Guys, if we follow Jesus' teaching a little bit, we'll get a little bit of the results. If we follow Jesus completely, we'll understand the fullness of Jesus. And I think that can be applied so easily to just spending time in his presence. If we just spend a little bit of time with Jesus, if Jesus just becomes an add-on, a little bit of rush time at the end of our day, we'll understand a little bit, we'll get a little glimpse, we'll understand a little bit of the blessing of Jesus. But if we prioritize it, if that time spent in Jesus' presence comes first, then we understand the fullness of Jesus. I hope I'm putting that across well. And in our month of prayer today, we've got an action point that says this, if I can find it now. Action: spend 30 minutes today in God's presence. Grab a Bible, find a chair, and wait on the Lord. Make time with God a daily habit and enjoy. I love that. So whenever we make space to seek the Lord, he never wastes a moment. And so I really just want to encourage us as a church, carve out that time, prioritize that time with Jesus and know his blessing. Maybe that needs to be our one thing. And just two bits of history that come to mind because I think they're really helpful. One is the story of John Wesley. So John Wesley, who was a great evangelist and preacher and spread the gospel in the 1700s, I believe. John Wesley, when you visit his house and you look at the rug in his room, there are two worn out patches. And that is where John Wesley would pray every day. Isn't that amazing? Just regular time in God's presence, sat at Jesus' feet, listening to his voice. I would love it. Here's an encouragement, here's a challenge. I would love it if in our homes there are two worn out patches where we go to spend that time with Jesus every day, where we carve out that time. Another thing which I actually shared on Sunday, which is from the Westminster Catechism of 1647. I'm sure you know it well. But it's where the Reformation theologians gathered and prayed and thought about this question, which is, what is the primary purpose of our lives? And what they decided at the end of this meeting, at the end of this time together, what they wrote down was this: the primary purpose of our lives is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Isn't that amazing? The purpose of our lives is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. That's the one thing that we need to do, to spend that time with him. There's no better way to spend your day than in the presence of Jesus. So I just want to close by reading these words from Psalm 27, which says this: the one thing I ask of the Lord, the thing I seek most, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in the Lord's perfections and meditating in his temple. There's no better way to spend your time than with Jesus. Guys, God bless and enjoy that one thing, that time with Jesus.